Jay Hay, I would assume that you have got some Max Scherzer nugs to get into today.
I do. And I know Joey's got some spin rate stuff that he's going to get to. So I'm going to leave that for him. To me, this is goes beyond substance use. This goes back to last season, last 7 starts. We talked about it 5 or 6 podcasts ago when he was giving up all those homers. Really hasn't stopped. 6.82 ERA, 956 OPS allowed, and 12 home runs over those 7 starts. For a little bit of context, he'd allowed 11 homers over his previous 22 starts in 2022. Overall strikeout rate is in a troubling spot. It's 20.8%. It basically has never been below 30%. As we know, Max Scherzer, his 4-seamer is getting knocked around. Batters are hitting 342 off of it with a 605 slugging percentage. That continued last night. I don't pretend to know about the substance stuff and how that impacts and to what degree he was cheating versus not cheating and where the line is with Major League Baseball. But I do know that these numbers are alarming regardless of what the reason is. And if it's age-related decline and he's just not as good as he used to be, that's a massive problem for the Mets. And if it's substance-related and he can't use it and that's why he's declining, that's a huge problem for the Mets. So there's no silver lining here for me, I don't think, as it relates to Max Scherzer.
The New York Mets, just for reference, I'm not trying to pour on here, because if you are a Mets fan listening to this, you're probably going to feel targeted. But if you're a neutral baseball fan, if you're a fan of another team that is not the Mets, and you're curious because it's a fascinating scenario, the New York Mets are paying Max Scherzer $43,333,333 this season, and they will pay him that exact same rate next season as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Say that one more time. Say that one.
How much
is he making this year?
$3,333,333 this year, as well as next year. So,
damn, bro.
Not trying to pour on
the Oakland A's roster is worth $59 million.
Damn, that's higher than I would have guessed, honestly.
Fuck, bro, that's pretty close to Scherzer, man. 13 mil off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of funny things you could do with that, like what other teams are paying what players, how much compared to one contract. We're not going to do that here. We're going to respect the Mets. Listen, if you got money, spend it. I'm not going to shame you for spending money.
Of course.
No, but they have about $90 million invested in Scherzer and Verlander, and one of those guys looks like a shell of his former self, and the other guy hasn't pitched yet. And granted, he's going to pitch later today, but that's how this rotation is supposed to work. And we talked about how exciting it could be to have 2 inner circle Hall of Fame pitchers on your roster, but we also talked about how it might play out that they're both nearing 40 years old. And right now, the downside has played out much more than the upside, which is unfortunate. Mm-hmm. It's not what I want to see personally. I like to watch Mets games. I like the booth. I like tuning in for the team. It's fun when the Mets are good. They may still be good, but I think this was really disconcerting.
Yeah, it begs the question: is the Marlins a more fun team to watch now? Like, if you look at the standings, they're tied.
Oh,
so
no, I can't.
That's kind of the debate that we could have now. Who's better?
I can't go.
That is, yeah. I feel like now you're being a bully, Joe. Now you're bullying Mets. We had a nice little Marlins discussion yesterday. But to Jay Hay's point, I do still think the Mets will be good this year, but I would be lying if I told you I wasn't concerned about Max Scherzer. And we'll see with Justin Verlander. He'll be taking the mound in just mere hours. It's I believe a 105 start. Justin Verlander versus my guy, Eddie Rodriguez, for the Detroit Tigers, who's been pitching well of late. But that was looking like that was going to be a disaster situation for a little while, where he was just like, I'm fucking leaving. Like, I'm not even on the team. And then he came back and now he's pitching really well. But on the subject of Max Scherzer, yeah, of course you have to be concerned, because this kind of goes back a couple postseasons ago when he was with the Dodgers and he ran out of gas down the line in, what was that, 21? right? Fell apart towards the end 2 years ago. And that wasn't like an injury thing. It just seemed like an aging starter with a lot of miles on him. And you get to a certain point in the season where it's like, hey, I'm out of gas a lot sooner than I used to be.
Yeah,
And
even going back to
2019,
19.
yeah.
Yeah.
His World Series run, he was pitching on fumes. He was hurt for that. But he was a little bit younger. You're able to kind of push through stuff like that. You're able to recover a little bit faster. Not that he was a spring chicken in 19, but he was certainly younger. That is how time works. But yeah, I would have concerns about Scherzer. I'm not going to throw up the W on him. I'm not going to call him washed just yet. But yeah, that is something that if you've been paying attention, not just during his Mets tenure, like this goes back a couple organizations where you start to see some bends and some breaks and some sputtering going on. But yeah, I'm not to kind of bring it on home about whether or not you're worried about the Mets. Let's see what Justin Verlander looks like. Dude can still toss. We saw him in his last rehab start, look really good there. So I have high hopes for Justin Verlander kind of coming in and being able to pick up the pace here. It is interesting, though, that you've got the return of Scherzer and Verlander happening in Detroit, where it all started. Back where it all started. Isn't that poetic?
It would be poetic if the Tigers sweep them. That would be poetic to me. That would be some Mozart stuff.
So, Mozart was a composer. He wasn't a poet.
Yeah, but he actually did it on the side a little bit.
No, he did a little poetry on the side.
I wouldn't expect most people I know you guys aren't as distinguished as some guys like me, but right. He did do some stuff on the side. Which is going on.
Yeah, it's kind of like when firefighters are also electricians. Like he was a musical composer, but he also did some poetry on the side.
And yeah, he's a firefighter too.
Mm-hmm. And he's a firefighter. Yeah,
he did it all.
Yeah,
but I just want to touch on the spin rates real quick because that's kind of been I think the thing a lot of people have been talking about.
Please.
Scherzer spin rates were down yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
His velocity was down pretty much every pitch.
He was throwing like 92.
Yeah, his fastball was down a half a mile per hour. And, I don't know the ratio of what you expect spin rate to go down with velocity. Like if your fastball's down 1 miles per hour, I don't think it's the same for everyone. I think I don't think spin rate should go down 100. Maybe I think it's around 50 from what I remember. His spin rates were down, but I don't think it's anything crazy. I think what Jay Hay was saying earlier, I don't think if Scherzer sucks, it's not going to be because he can't use sticky substance. He probably still could use sticky substance if he wasn't using it yesterday. He wasn't using Spider Tech or some crazy shit. The guy was using probably sweat and rosin. That's not going to be the biggest thing, but it is interesting. You got to put a bookmark in that. But why can't he still use it? There's only one umpire who calls it. I mean,
that is true.
It's like
if you don't got Phil Cuzzy back there, you're probably good to go.
So I don't want people to say, "Oh, Scherzer is a cheater and he can't pitch without sticky substance." I don't think there's any real evidence to say that.
No.
The guy's old as shit, so if he does bad, that's probably the main reason. You know?
I mean, I would like to see like a deeper dive because he was never named as a sticky stuff guy during the crackdown. Like it wasn't someone that once they started to actually do sticky checks that his spin rate numbers just plummeted. He wasn't one of those guys, was he?
No, and I also don't understand how it would explain the timeline of his struggles generally, because it's not, as I said, it's not limited to this season. It really, if we're talking about a narrative, it really works better as an age-related just kind of guy falling off than it does a guy who magically got caught with sticky stuff on his hands and then couldn't pitch. Like the struggles were leading up to the suspension, and then the struggles continued after the suspension. So why are we, not we as the podcast, but why are we as a baseball community focused on the thing that right now seems to have almost no correlation with whether or not he pitches well. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's more to just illustrate the point that there is no correlation.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think, I never
But there are
never
people
crossed my
like
mind.
there are people out there like using the term cheater and saying that because he was bad last night in his first start back, that
Those just got to be Mets haters, though.
yeah, I guess maybe it's just a loud minority. It just seems
And
crazy.
I could see where they're coming from. The spin rates are down, but they're not down crazy numbers. Like you see people
Like 600
there's really
RPM.
there's really only, I would say, maybe like 15 to 20 pitchers who really got fucked by foreign substance. It's very few people who you can say like that had a big impact on their career. I think it's still, even the biggest examples, it's kind of a fringe thing for you to really suck because you can't use spider tack. Most people are not even using it. If you're seeing a 200, 300 RPM drop, then you can say that. But yeah, like 80 to 100 RPMs down, that's not going to take your ERA from 2 to 4 overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Don't see that.
I agree. Yeah. I also think if in an alternate universe, if Max Scherzer never left the Nats, people aren't talking about Max Scherzer cheating with sticky stuff as much. Like,
Oh no, dude.
with the Dodgers, like,
talk about
people
him
hate
at
the
all.
Dodgers. When it goes to the Mets, people hate the Mets. So, yeah, I think that's a big part of it. But we'll see. I mean, it's still only May 4th. He's a veteran. He's a multi-time Cy Young Award winner. There's still time for him to figure it out. But to Jay Hay's point, it may not be about figuring it out. Like, he may just be declining. Like, is he 39 yet? Or he'll be 39 soon? Max Scherzer is 38. He'll be 39 in July. Like, hello? Like, how long did you think the ride was going to last for? The Mets are desperate to win a championship. Steve Cohen wants to make an impact, make an impression. And the allure of bringing in a guy like Max Scherzer, first ballot Hall of Famer, he's got all the hardware that you could ask for. He's got the ring. He's got the Cy Young awards. You bring that guy in, but then you ask yourself on the surface, was that smart to give this guy who's in his late 30s $43.3 million a year? This was one of the risks. The reward was that he is a Cy Young caliber pitcher. Maybe he's not winning Cy Young awards because he's almost 40, but maybe it's a gradual decline, and a gradual decline of Max Scherzer, if it is gradual, is still better than most pitchers in the league. If he's not the best, a gradual decline would have you somewhere, I don't know, top 10 pitcher, top 20 pitcher. I'll fucking pay for that. Sure, I'm fucking Steve Cohen. But it's not been gradual. It has been quite the fall off. And how many innings are we talking about? Like, what was your sample size, Jay Hay?
It was about 33 innings.
33 innings.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 7 starts. Yeah.
So 7 starts, you're talking about like 20% of a big league season?
Yeah, sure.
So, I mean, it's not, we're not talking about a full season or anything like that, but it's a nice chunk. So we'll see what happens. I think that this is more of a wait and see than a let's close the book on Max Scherzer ever being good again. But for what we have seen, the sample that we do have, it ain't great. And I don't think that you're not going to have a conversation. Is he tipping pitches? Is this mechanics? Like, it may just be as simple as he's fucking old. Like, it's what happens. It's what happens to old people, Blue. They die.